is a traditional time for new beginnings. Children start school. Our Jewish brothers and sisters are in the midst of their high holy days at the start of their liturgical year. Observant Jews are reviewing this past year, making amends as needed, asking for and offering forgiveness to important people in their lives so they can begin the new year with a cleanish slate. If you fasted on that last day called Yom Kippur, you would break your fast eating apples with honey smeared on them to remind you of the persistent sweetness of life despite the chaos. So September is an ancient time of beginning again. It's a place in time where we invite our hope to meet our history. Here at All Souls, our ninth graders are just starting their year with us. Our teachers and guides will work with them on Wednesday evenings and Sundays all through the year, through the fall, winter, and spring, and they'll discuss and explore faith all year long, while it's our adult theme only for the month of September. So we have a little catching up to do. They're mostly 14 years old, and they will dig down into their own experiences, trying to find the foundations of their own personal faith, as they also learn about the faith traditions of the world. Then in the spring, they'll share their own credo statements with us and tell us what they believe. Often they have to sort through what they don't believe before they can claim what they do. It's one of the best Sundays of the year. We call it Coming of Age Sunday. We, the adults, if you've been here, you know, are often moved to tears listening to our youth articulate, talk about what gives their lives meaning. After the service, every year, I hear us express a deep longing to have been cared for in our questioning and supported despite our doubting, like that when we were young. And then I hear us mumbling and murmuring about how we wonder if we would be able to do what they just did. Articulate what we believe in 3 minutes or less. But we're still young, aren't we? At least internally, even if our bodies show signs of aging. And what we believe still matters. And knowing what we believe and being able to share that with others may matter even more now than when we were younger. Now that our lives have expanded along with our waists, touching so many more lives than ever before. We influence each other, whether we want to or not, whether we've worked out what it all means or not. And so because of that, before we go any further, I want to ask you to find a pencil or a pen. There might be one in the back of the pew in front of you. You might have to borrow from a neighbor, but we help each other in our covenant. So truly take the time now to find a pencil or a pen. There are usually some extra ones in the back. You don't want to miss this. And also take your orders of service, your order of service. And we're going to take one step forward today towards writing our own credo statements. So you have to decide which way you want to orient your order of service. I think you have the most space on the front. So you have to decide if it goes like this or like this. That's up to you. And now you're going to write a few words in each of the 4 corners of your order of service. Ready? Okay, in the top right corner, I want you to name a religious belief you have rejected. It might be the idea of a heaven and the hereafter, the virgin birth, that Jesus died to atone for our sins, that we are by nature sinful. Just one, because I know some of you could fill the whole order of service with ideas you've rejected. So one religious idea you've rejected goes in the top right corner. You can look up when you're done. Beautiful. Okay, big deep breath. In the top left corner, I want you to name a religious belief that you cherish. One that you cherish. It may be the idea that we're all part of one human family, or that we're called to forgive ourselves and each other, as at Rosh Hashanah. Or you may believe in reincarnation or that things happen for a reason. Choose one belief, put it in your top left corner, a belief that you cherish. No cheating, you have to have your own paper. Okay, now we're going to turn a corner. On the bottom left corner, write down a religious question you are currently struggling with. It could be, why do bad things happen to good people? Does the arc of the universe really bend toward justice? What actually happens after we die? Or knowing I will die and everyone I love or have ever loved will die, that someday even our son will die. Is there a point to all this? Bottom left-hand corner, a religious idea you're struggling with. Please look up when you're done. Okay, bottom, the final corner, you only have one corner left. Bottom right, if you're following instructions, I want you to name something you long to believe in. Maybe you long to believe that your life does have meaning despite death. Or to be certain that love is a healing energy always available to each and every one of us. Or that God is love. Or that love will triumph in the end. In that last corner, name something that you long to believe, even if you're not sure about it. It might be the most important corner of all, so make sure you put something there. The thing you want to believe. And please look up when you're done. I wish you all got to share this view with me. It's a beautiful view. Okay, so now you have to pat yourself on your shoulder for doing all that good work, hard work. And I'm going to tell you what I know about faith. Oh, it's good, you can pat each other on the shoulder too. Whether you think, is number one, whether you think you have faith or not is irrelevant. Whether your faith is grounded in a particular religious tradition is also irrelevant, because your faith will be revealed by the way you live your life. Faith grows in us from the place where hope meets history inside our own hearts. Traditional talk about faith, what we call theology, is only an invitation to experience and express something that lives and springs up from deep inside each and every one of us. What if we don't need faith to live, but instead we live to express our faith? Day by day, month by month, year by year. What if we live to more and more fully express our faith? As it was with Edie Windsor. Had any of you heard of Edie Windsor before today? Maybe some of you, scholars among us. Maybe some of you read about her in the Tulsa World this past week, which I did. Or maybe you're like most of the people I've asked who have never heard of her. But I want you to see why it's wonderful that most of us had never heard of her, because it proves that progress in history is accomplished by ordinary people simply living their lives faithfully. It also proves that love stories have great power to transform not just our own lives, but the lives of those around us. So here's a short version of Edie's life. She was born in 1929, and she found and fell for the love of her life when she was 34 years old. 4 years later, Dr. Spire, who was a clinical psychologist, the woman she had fallen in love with, proposed to Edie. And they began their 40-year engagement, sealed with a diamond brooch, not a ring, because the ring might have raised questions or given them away and threatened their jobs, their livelihood. Both women were successful in their careers, and both were also wary of being associated with gay politics. So it wasn't until she retired that Edie got involved with the movement for equal rights. And just about the same time, Thea, her life partner, was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, MS, a progressive disease of the central nervous system. And caring for her became the center of Edie's life as Thea progressed from using canes to crutches to pulleys and finally lifts. In 2007, knowing Thea's death was very, very near, Edith and Thea traveled to Toronto to be married by Canada's first openly gay judge. And this is what Edie said just a few days before Thea, who was by then a quadriplegic, died. Married is a magic word. And it is magic throughout this world. It has to do with our dignity as human beings to be who we are openly. But the only reason we know this story is because when Thea died, Edie inherited her estate, but then was denied the unlimited spousal exemption from federal estate taxes available to married heterosexuals at the time. So Edie went to court for a tax refund. And her case became the case that undid the Defense of Marriage Act, DOMA, which was passed under Bill Clinton, by the way, that defined marriage as the union of a man and a woman. Edie was 84 years old when the Supreme Court for the first time granted same-sex marriage partners the same recognition and benefits given to heterosexuals. The ruling was based on the Fifth Amendment that no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Maybe you believe or have faith in the healing and transforming powers of the Fifth Amendment. Edie was 85 years old when she received a phone call from President Obama, who said, "I had the privilege to speak with Edie a few days ago and to tell her one more time what a difference she made to this country we love." Because people like Edie stood up, it was a great day for America, a victory for human decency, equality, freedom, and justice. Hope met history in Edie's heart. Edie, who said, "I grew up knowing that society thought I was inferior. Did I ever think we would be discussing equality in marriage? Never, never. It was just so far away." You might ask, did Edie have faith that her actions would make a difference on such a large scale, or that God would take care of things because she believed? I don't think so. It's nowhere in her story. Instead, her faith grew as she grew and stayed true to who she really was. She lived into fully expressing her faith. Her life is an example of what faith is, showing us how, by taking each next step, by facing each new challenge, we gain strength and courage, proving to ourselves and often each other that love heals, that forgiveness cures, that mercy and patience and long-suffering redeem. Did I ever think we would be discussing equality in marriage? Never, she said. It was so, so far away. In reflecting this week, I've realized that I have faith in small things, much more than larger things. And I thank Victoria Safford, my colleague, for writing an essay called "The Small Work in the Great Work," which is helping me understand why. The title of her essay, "The Small Work in the Great Work," comes from theologian Matthew Fox, who writes about, as Victoria tells it, the place of your little life and little love, daily days, and earnest effort, as a solitary person within the larger life and larger love that some call holy, some call God, some call history, and others simply call larger than themselves. Like everybody else, we are doing small work within the great work of creation, and thus do we aid it and abet it in unfolding. I absolutely have faith that each and every one of us are doing the small work that is part of the great work. On the one hand, how could we not be? Knowing what we know about energy and matter and how we're all interconnected. On the other hand, it's almost too exciting to be true. What an honor to be part of the ongoing creation in this day-to-day life of ours. But if we are truly co-creating the future together, then what we believe really matters. despite death. In her essay, Reverend Safford tells a story about her church after the tragedy of 9/11, which happened just 16 years ago this month, as you know. People were invited to gather and share how they were feeling. That was the only thing on the agenda, that very small yet very large question. How are you feeling right now? Together they set an intention not to dive right into discussing the various articles they were reading, the websites they had found, the NPR commentaries they had listened to, the position pieces in the op-ed section they had read or written. Sound familiar? They knew they would end up there eventually, but they wanted to start someplace else, at the place where history is met by hope, at the birthplace of faith inside themselves. So they cast a different kind of circle, within and out of which people could rise to the holy occasion of hearing one another, of beholding one another. And somewhat surprisingly or serendipitously, the circle held. When people lost their way and landed in the frozen fields of furious rhetoric, the circle simply called them back. And soon they were talking about what they knew about the time before 9/11. They found themselves remembering the broken and beautiful, the mutilated and marvelous world that we're all so familiar with. Youth group high school students and octogenarians described a world so full of political power plays and persistent and pervasive pollution and exploitation that sorrow and rage began to sweep over the circle. Still, the circle called them back. So thirsty were these people to connect with one another and with something antecedent in themselves, something original, essential, deep. Then, Safford continues, someone in the circle, with more presence of mind than I could muster in the moment, saved us all from drowning by saying, we cannot do this all at once. But every day offers every one of us little invitations for resistance, and we will each make our own responses. Safford says she wrote it down right then and there because the person who spoke was not an activist or a particularly religious person. Nevertheless, he was the one to find faithful words in that place, in that moment in time where history meets hope in the darkness. It's a sacred offering, he said, the invitation to resistance. And every day we choose our responses. Then the circle of people, even in their sorrow and rage, were grateful and amazed. The state of the world today is making many of us feel sorrow and rage. It is scaring many of us as well. And despite that, or perhaps even more so because of it, I hope you will take some time this month to explore where hope meets history in you. And maybe even try to put it into words, finding the dark and quiet ground in which your faith is planted. What has your life taught you about faith? What would you say about what you believe if you only had 3 minutes to say it, and you could change or even save someone else's life with those words? Would you say, I believe it's possible to be grateful even when we are feeling pain? Or would you say, I believe we can help each other discover and rediscover hope time and time again? Or would you say, I believe that when we are courageous, kind, or generous, it makes a difference because seeing others be courageous, kind, or generous has always encouraged me, inspired me to keep on going? Would you say, I believe the more peace I experience, the more peace there will be in the world? I used to hate death. it seemed to me to destroy the possibility of life having any meaning at all. Although my rational mind has always accepted the biological and scientific necessity of death, my heart heaved heavily against the rough injustice of having to lose what I love so much. But now that my father has been dead 6 months, I'm beginning to see and feel how death does not negate the meaning of life or the power of love. I'm beginning to soften on the inside, and my faith is continuing to evolve. Partly because in conversation with my stepmother recently, I could feel my father's presence and the love his presence made possible in this world. And I felt it so strongly, it was as if he was alive. And Cynthia, my stepmom, and I, she is not a traditionally religious person, we joked about how it was almost as if we were in heaven, or at least we were having this heavenly conversation, because it felt miraculous. The way our connection with each other conjured up my dad's presence. I couldn't help but wonder if this wasn't how the disciples felt, and whether it might not be a faint reflection of what they had experienced. Edie said being childless was the hardest part of her lesbian life. But as the years passed, children, like marriage, seemed hopelessly beyond reach. One was impractical, the other illegal. But the miracle of marriage did become a reality in her lifetime. And all kinds of LGBTQ couples are having children today. Which means the impossible we imagine today in our own lives and in this world can come true when we focus our attention on the fertile place where hope meets history in our own hearts. That's where faithful actions arise. So I hope you'll take your orders of service home with you today. You can recycle them in October. And I hope you'll discuss faith with your family and friends this September, because September is a really good season for planting things that need a little extra time to grow and develop. Because the impossible does take time, but I have faith that it can happen. Amen. You're visiting with us online today. We love connecting with people all across the country and around the world, sharing our powerful message of love beyond belief.
There's something new happening here. You can now join All Souls as a virtual member. Our virtual membership is designed for friends who live outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and who want to engage with All Souls in a meaningful way.
You can be part of an expanding family, a global family really, wherever you are. If you live in Oklahoma,
Ohio,
or Orange County, California,
Canada,
or Cameroon. By becoming a virtual member, you'll be able to deepen your connections with members and friends here in Tulsa and with members wherever you are.
Each week, you'll receive special All Souls content tailored for you, our virtual members. Virtual members have access to pastoral care, to personal prayers, and also receive invitations to exclusive web events.
You can learn more, and if you're ready, you can become a virtual member today by visiting allsoulschurch.org/virtual membership.
We're grateful our ministries are having a positive impact on your life, and we want to share the good news of love beyond belief with more and more people. So no matter what, we need your support to keep this ministry growing and thriving, so please consider making a gift today. You can do so by texting
LOVEBB for Love Beyond Belief to 73256, or simply visit our website. You are a blessing in our lives. May you be blessed.
and be a blessing.